Hello and welcome! My name's Heather. I'm a registered professional counselor and a certified life coach. And today I'm going to be analyzing the relationships from the classic Christmas movie, Love Actually. So I'm going to be predicting what happens to these relationships, and then next week I'm going to react to their sequel, which is Red Nose Day Actually, and see where all these characters are at. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more analysis videos like this. Let's get to the movie.
Hello, Natalie.
Hello, David. Sir.
So we see from the very beginning that there is some form of attraction there. He is obviously smitten by her nervousness. She was a little bit awkward in the introduction, a little bit informal, and maybe that was something that he liked.
Oh, no. That is so inconvenient.
And we see that almost immediately that he knew that there was going to be some conflict of interest, or that there was going to be some issues around his attraction to her. A part of him knows that he needs to stay professional. He's in a very high-profile job, and we see throughout their working relationship that he tries his best to try to set that boundary and to not get too close to her. Then there's another part of him that wants to get to know her.
I'm starting to feel uncomfortable about us working in such close proximity every day and me knowing so little about you.
He's asking her personal questions, he's asking about where she lives, and if she has a boyfriend. He's trying to kind of gauge the situation, and also he just wants more information about her. I'm not a huge fan of all the body shaming around Natalie. It's seen throughout the movie that, people are calling her chubby.
The chubby girl?
Would we call her chubby?
I think there's a pretty sizable ass there, yes, sir.
I know that this movie was filmed at a different time, but definitely not okay. And we do see examples of him trying to stand up for her and trying to protect her, such as when the US president tried to make a pass at her.
A relationship based on the president taking exactly what he wants and casually ignoring what really mattered to Britain.
And also when she explained the situation with her ex-boyfriend.
Being Prime Minister, I could just have him murdered.
Thank you, sir.
He realizes that, okay, well, I did this obviously because I was trying to stand up for Natalie or protect her or to show her that I care about her or that I'm on her side. And so I stood up to the US president and didn't agree with what his demands were or what our previous agreement or working relationship is. I think now he realizes this relationship or this infatuation with this coworker is now impacting my work, and therefore I really need to draw the line. I need to really put the boundary there.
I wonder if you could redistribute her.
It's done.
He's doing what he can to try to keep a clean working environment without having any distractions or any workplace romances, because I would imagine that could also be quite a scandal. Come Christmas time, he receives a card from her saying that she has feelings for him.
If you can't say it at Christmas, when can you, eh? I'm actually yours, with love. You're Natalie.
And now he has confirmation of how she's feeling. Now he wants to act on it. Maybe he's in his mind already calculated, the cost benefits of the relationship or pursuing that relationship. He does whatever he can to try to find her, to also confess how he's feeling.
Look, I'm so sorry about that day. Nothing happened, I promise.
I think that she's probably been blaming herself as to why she no longer works directly with the Prime Minister. Maybe she feels that she needs to apologize because of the power dynamics between her and the Prime Minister. She didn't want to give off the impression that she was potentially interested in the US president. She's only interested in the Prime Minister. But generally speaking, if you are a victim of harassment or being assaulted, that's nothing to be apologetic for because you didn't do anything wrong. You were the victim. Someone was the aggressor. And that habit of wanting to apologize, that narrative we tell ourselves of like, oh, it was my fault that this happened, it could definitely feed into feelings of shame and guilt. The Prime Minister could have also checked in with her and asked her how she was feeling or how she was doing instead of just not talking to her and then having her relocated to a different department. So in the end, we see that they're together, they're a couple, but it's unclear if they're still working together. I don't know if that would be appropriate if they're still working together, and if they're a couple, I have no idea.
And you resist the temptation for surprises.
In this dynamic, there's clearly a lack of communication between Mark and Peter, the two friends. Mark tries to set his boundaries between him and Juliet because he does have feelings for her, and so he tries to distance himself from her.
Yeah, I'll have a look, but to be honest, I'm pretty sure I wiped it, so don't get any hopes up. Must go.
She thought that he didn't like her because they never talked.
It would be great if we could be friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
She finds out through the videos of their wedding when they were just like close-ups of her face that he has feelings for her. You know, some people would call it creepy or stalkerish. I mean, I would be uncomfortable if I found someone just videotaping just me on my wedding day. She's clearly blindsided because I think at this point she just figured that he didn't like her, when in reality he has feelings for her.
You never talk to me. You always talk to Peter.
Some people may argue that he's borderline obsessed with Juliet. I can't really say that because we only see the video camera footage, which, I mean, yeah, it's a little alarming, especially when they're just like close-ups of her face, but we don't have any other evidence that he's stalking her or he's following her or that he has shrines to her with pictures cut out and other video footages of her that was taken in secret. We only have one piece of example, and then also at the end, which isn't technically stalking, if he knocks on the door to confess his love. I mean, stalking is, you know, what we see from Joe Goldberg from You.
See you soon, neighbor.
But it's clear that Mark isn't being honest with his feelings. He should have approached Peter, his friend, first to kind of talk this through and just let him know what's going on instead of kind of keeping it to himself. But I can understand why he is trying to keep it to himself because he's trying to preserve that friendship with Peter.
It's a self-preservation thing, you see.
He pulls a 180 and then at the end he confesses his love to Juliet. I guess the question is, does he actually really love her? Or is he just infatuated with her? Or he's in love with the idea of her? Again, we don't have a lot of information of their dynamics. The only pieces of information that we have from the movie is that she says that they've never talked. If you don't talk to someone and if you don't really know them, how do you know if you actually are in love with them? So in this case, maybe it's more of an infatuation or being in love with the idea of her and not so much being in love with her per se. I could see how later on this can definitely cause rifts between him and his friend. And that's something that Mark and Peter will have to figure out. But there's no conversations around this. Peter is kind of in the dark about what's going on. And even after Juliet found the video footage of her, it seems like she didn't even tell Peter about Mark's feelings for her. Maybe she was waiting for Mark to approach Peter. Now it's kind of this weird love triangle. It's difficult to say what Juliet's intentions are. Clearly she is in love with Peter. She married him. Yet after Mark confesses his love, she runs out and kisses him. That would be considered cheating. It's not just like, oh, that was really sweet. Like, thank you for your kind words and like maybe like a hug or a kiss on the cheek. Oh boy. Yeah, that just got a whole lot messier. You know, it's one thing when you have someone just confessing their feelings for you, but you have control over how you want to handle the situation. And maybe they're just never going to talk about it ever again. I don't think that she's going to leave Peter for Mark because they don't really have much of a foundation of a relationship because it seems like they don't even have a friendship. Jamie finds out that his girlfriend has been cheating on him with his brother.
I'm naked and I want you at least twice before Jamie gets home.
This situation can be considered traumatic. You have two people close to you who betrayed you. There's going to be a lot of processing of feelings, right, around hurt and betrayal and pain. I'm not surprised if he would have difficulty trusting people in the future. Traveling, getting to a new environment can be helpful to process those feelings of hurt and pain, but it's not recommended to just completely isolate yourself from friends and family members.
Alone again.
In his situation, because of the degree of cheating and betrayal, he might have a hard time connecting with his friends and family members because he might not want to tell them exactly what happened. So there might be feelings of shame or embarrassment. Maybe for him, he figured, okay, I'm just going to take some time away. I'm going to travel and just be by myself. I'm just going to focus on my writing. Maybe that's a way for him to be able to process his feelings. And then later on, when he does go back home, he can tell them what happened.
Bonjour, Aurelia.
Bonjour.
So he meets his housekeeper. They don't speak the same language, but there's a clear physical attraction. They're trying their best to try to communicate each other and try to understand each other. And we see that they use a lot of hand gestures and facial expressions. It's really funny because we see the translation of, her trying to communicate with him, and they're sort of on the same wavelength.
There better not be eels in here. I can't stand eels.
I think you just touched my word.
So what happens if we can't communicate with someone that we're attracted to? It becomes easy for us to idealize and project who we think they are or who we want them to be, as opposed to actually getting to know who they are. It doesn't seem realistic to me, for him to just hurry up and jump into another relationship. It's possible that he might bring his emotional baggage or trust issues into this relationship. The other thing that could be possible is that he wants to have a rebound relationship, and maybe that's how he would process his previous breakup or his heartbreak. It may not be the most effective way of getting through a breakup. They've known each other for a short period of time. We see that they both have the same feelings towards each other, but they have a hard time communicating it. And so they both learn each other's language. So there's that sense of effort put on both parties that they want to see the other person again. And in order to see the other person again, they want to be able to communicate with them. So he was able to fly back, find out where she lives, and then find out where she works, and propose to her in her language.
Aqui, para te pedir para casar comigo.
Maybe she feels a pressure of having to say yes because now there's a huge audience, family's there, he traveled all the way there to see her. Because they've only known each other for a short period of time, they haven't had any serious discussion of what their values are in their relationship, what are their goals. They don't really know each other's personalities also. It's clear that they're still in the honeymoon phase, and that could be said for all the couples that we've seen as well, but he's trying to take the relationship to the next level so quickly without even really knowing her, without really discussing anything of significance. I've watched enough 90 Day Fiancé to know that there's still going to be communication breakdowns, language barriers, also challenges with couples navigating two different types of cultures. Getting married so quickly can also put an additional stress on the relationship. You have to get to know each other, but then you're also planning a wedding. While they're in this honeymoon stage, it's easy for them to kind of forget more of the serious things that actually keep the relationship together. And it's not to say that the relationship won't work out, but chances are there's going to be heightened levels of stress and additional challenges that they'll have to navigate together, especially with the relationship escalating so quickly.
Sorry I'm late. I had to drop off down here at my house.
Harry and Karen have been married for years and they have kids together. It seems like they have a happy marriage. At Harry's work, there's someone named Mia who is clearly trying to seduce him.
Full of dark corners, doing dark deeds.
Right.
It's possible that she is attracted to him, or maybe she is just really into the game of trying to seduce a married man. Maybe she likes the attention. It's hard to really pinpoint where she's coming from. And oftentimes when people are in this position where they know that someone else is clearly in a committed relationship and they still try to insert themselves into that relationship, it could also play into their ideas around their confidence or their self-worth. And we also see Harry is enjoying the flirtation. Maybe he is enjoying that attention. Maybe it's also feeding into his ego to know that there's a younger woman who is interested in him. He likes to feel that he's still desirable. He has this opportunity now where if he wants to cheat on his wife, he can. As a boss, he could have clearly set boundaries and he could have just said, this is not appropriate in the workplace. I'm happily married. Please do not make advances like that towards me. We see that he's kind of giving into her demands, like he's dancing with her. Then he later on buys her a necklace. It's definitely escalating, and it's not really clear in the movie itself whether or not it was just a flirtation or an emotional affair or if it was a physical affair. I think years later, the director actually said it was just a flirtation, so I'm just going to go with that. But it's clear that boundaries have been crossed. So Karen finds the necklace and she thinks that this is his gift to her. Come Christmas Day, she opens her gift and finds a CD instead. She realizes that he's given the gold necklace to another woman. I think a part of her is aware that he might stray, which is why she said,
Mia's very pretty.
Is she?
You know she is, darling. Be careful there.
she was trying to gauge exactly where he's at in terms of his feelings towards Mia after realizing that she didn't get the necklace and that he bought it for someone else. I think she was able to put the puzzle pieces together. We see that she tries to go and compose herself. She's obviously very upset. She's crying. I know a lot of people might think that she should have confronted him right away. But when you're in that position and all you feel is hurt and betrayal, you might want time to kind of process, okay, well, how do I approach this conversation? Plus, the kids are there. It's Christmas. They have plans to go to the concert. It's not the best time to bring it up. It's not to say that, she needs to stuff her feelings down. She's just trying to compose herself so she knows how to respond to the situation. And again, she's trying to process those initial feelings of pain.
Your husband bought a gold necklace and come Christmas gave it to somebody else.
After the concert, she does confront him. He doesn't apologize. He just says that he was in the wrong and that he's such a fool. Perhaps he was also a little bit blindsided by her finding out and her confronting him. It does seem like he has some form of remorse.
I'm so in the wrong. A classic fool.
If the couple wants to work on their relationship, it's going to take a lot of work. It's probably going to take several sessions of couples therapy and just trying to rebuild the trust. It might not be the exact same that the relationship once was. And that's why when it comes to cheating or emotional affairs, there are consequences for these actions. And that's why having clear set boundaries so you don't get yourself in that position is important. If you do have someone who is trying to pursue you, I know that there's a lot of temptations around that. Again, it feeds the ego. Everybody wants to feel attractive. Everyone wants to feel desired. Again, how do you manage that? How do you deal with that? How do you handle that? And thinking about how that will impact your relationship in the future. At the end of the movie, they're still together. Maybe they are going to go to couples counseling. Maybe they're going to work on rebuilding their trust. Will their relationship be the same as it once was? It might not be. When the trust is broken, it's really hard to get that trust back. It's not impossible, but it takes a lot of work from both parties. Now, maybe there is a part of her that wants to leave him, but she's staying because of the kids. That does happen a lot as well. And maybe that's just part of the facade that they want to have for the kids' sake and to keep the family together. Can they work through this? Absolutely they can. It just really depends on what it is that they decide to do to work on this. Sarah has had a crush on Karl for a few years since she's worked there. Everyone in the office, including her boss and including Karl, knows about the crush.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Karl.
Excuse me.
It seems like they don't really interact much at work. She could have definitely asked him out on a date, or they could have tried to get to know each other at work a bit more. Perhaps they're both shy, and so that's never happened.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Karl.
They share a dance at the Christmas party. She invites him over. They're about to get intimate, and her brother keeps calling. We see her on these phone calls earlier in the movie.
It's my brother. He's not well. He calls a lot.
She tries to explain that to Karl. He seems somewhat understanding, but he still tries to initiate being physical.
Don't answer.
He could have offered to take her to see her brother. He could have asked more questions about him. He could have asked her how he could have supported her emotionally. He didn't do any of that. Basically, he just sat there and he just wanted to have sex with her. And when that was off the table, he didn't really want to have anything to do with her. He didn't really want to get to know her more or get to know the situation. And I think it's a clear sign for her. And I think she realized like, oh, okay, well, maybe he's not the guy I thought he was, and he's not really being supportive of me. Obviously, she cares about her brother. She's all that he's got, and she wants to take care of him. And I think she's realized now that it's not going to work with Karl, especially if they haven't really interacted much or communicated much in the office or throughout the years. She's just has this idealized version of who Karl is. I think also for him, maybe he did the same thing. Maybe he's realized like, oh, she's got a lot of responsibilities with her brother. I don't really want to get into that. That's not a position I want to be in. And that's totally fine. It just means that they're not really compatible.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
They're still working together. They're still polite with each other, but they didn't even talk about what almost happened. I think they're just going to ignore that they were almost intimate and they're just going to pretend that nothing happened. I don't see them getting together in the future, and I think that the idealized version or this idealized image that they had for the other person just got shattered. Overall themes of the movie, grand gestures are considered romantic.
Aqui, para te pedir para casar comigo.
Christmas is also known as Truth Day.
If you can't say it at Christmas, when can you, eh? I'm actually yours, with love. Your Natalie.
Don't forget to check out my other therapist reviews videos, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, be kind and love yourself.